Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Conversations with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and I've already had the pleasure, not for the podcast, but I've had the pleasure of talking to my guest today once already. This is the second time, first for you, and hopefully first of many, because you know how I am with coaches. I fall in love with almost all of my guests, and Jeff is definitely no exception. Let me introduce you to Jeff Sesol. Jeff has over 30 years as a serial entrepreneur. He has started several of his own companies, consulted many others, and is currently using his experience and talents as a business executive and leadership coach. He believes in people and the power of those people to help a business grow. Put it simply, if you grow your people, you will grow your company. Jeff, it has been a delight to get to know you over the course of a couple conversations, and I am extremely pleased to have you here and to get to know you and to amplify you a little bit, to get to know you a little bit better. So, Jeff, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we met that first time and we just kind of bounced off each other for a little bit there. Just had a lot of fun. So I'm looking
We
forward
did.
to it.
It was good. Some neat ideas have come from our conversations that I'll workshopping offline. May have to bring to bear for our next episode if I can actually these half-baked ideas fully baked. But for now, let's begin at the beginning. Let's start at the start. What is your, and I sort of cheekily like to refer to it as your superhero origin story. How did you get your start as a coach? What made you decide? What a key piece of advice or a mentor at the right moment that sort of helped you to realize that coaching was something you wanted to move into, or maybe something you were already doing and wanted to do as a business? And how did that realization or that moment evolve into the business you have today?
Sure. So the best way I can tell this story is to talk about a couple of things. And I always like to say, look, there are a couple important birthdays in your life. When you turn 16, because you can drive. When you turn 21, because you're legal. When you turn 40, because statistically your life is half over. And you look in the mirror and you say, all right, what do you want to do that's on your bucket list while you still are able? And so for me, it was to go skydiving. And trust me, this will all lead into something for you.
Yes.
For those of you who've never gone skydiving, you go 14,000 feet up in the air and you tumble out of a plane. You're falling at 120 miles an hour. A couple things you notice right away. It's hard to breathe. One little movement of your hands and you start to spin out of control. Everything is happening so fast you can't see where you're at. You can't see where you're going. But at 5,500 feet, you pull the chute. Suddenly you can breathe. You're in control. You can see where you're at and you can see where you want to go. And ever since I'd done that, I always thought, isn't that a lot like business? Right? When you're in business for yourself, especially when you're entrepreneurial, you're starting out, you're moving at 120 miles an hour. Sometimes it's hard to breathe because you're just the anxiety and the stress and everything else is on top of you. You're afraid to make a move because you might spin out of control. You're moving so fast, you can't see where you're at and you can't see where you're going. So I say that to say that when I turned 60, I looked in the mirror and said, all right, big guy, you're not going to retire at 65. We all know that. I'm having too much fun. And I really, really enjoy helping companies. But the problem I had when I looked in the mirror and kind of looked into myself and said, what's my true passion? And I said, my true passion is really to help companies at every level. I love small to mediums, but I'm not adverse to helping large. Large probably end up more in the leadership area than in the business area, but still, I like to do that. And so I thought, the best way that I can do that is to help as many companies as possible be the best they can be. And the only thing I could think about was to do coaching instead of consulting. And there's a difference there, right? When you're consulting, you're in both feet, you're kind of working the process, you're there every day, you're making decisions, and you're telling the business owner in many cases how to do things or how they should do things. Coaching has a different flair and a different feel to it. And it's a lot more fun because you're teaching. And it's just more, to me, it's way more rewarding than consulting. I've been very successful at my consulting. I've taken companies, grown them 348% over a couple of years. Taking them from a 50% retention rate to a 93% retention rate when they do residual, services. Just there's all kinds of little things that I've looked for over the years. And I have this philosophy that I believe that 2% change creates compound results. What I mean by that is a lot of times people will come into a business and they make wholesale changes, right? Oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. No, because here's the problem. Everyone gets put off by change. And so if you want to get support, you start making small little 2% changes. And the funny part is they buy into it because it's a small change. They're like, oh, that's easy. Okay, I can do that.
Hmm.
But after about a half a dozen of those or more, all of a sudden, instead of 2% change, they've changed more like 25% of how they did things. Everyone's rowing in the same direction and they didn't even realize they got there or how they got there. Right.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
once everyone's rowing in the same direction, sky's the limit, because then everyone is moving along at the same pace and building a good foundation. Anyway, so I feel from a coaching standpoint, wouldn't it be fun to be able to take all those things that I've learned from a consulting standpoint and apply those to companies from a coaching standpoint where they learn? Because my goal is, look, I'm not going to be around forever, A. B, I want them, like any good mentor, to take it off and do it on their own at some point.
Yeah.
Right. So, people always say, how long do you coach for? And I go, truthfully, it's years. I mean, because it takes time.
Mhm.
You can't go in and tell an owner, oh, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. No. What you want to do is you want to talk through and say, okay, where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? Okay. What's the plan? And then from an outside perspective, you go, have you thought about this? And I'm a little concerned if you go down that path, that might be what happened. And they go, ooh, never thought of that. That's good,
Mm.
right? And so it gives me that ability to do that. Probably the funnest part of coaching for me. I meet with my clients for once a week for an hour, and we go through the take a deep breath, feel in control, see where you're at, and see where you want to go. We follow that whole theory. But there are times when they're in situations. I had a client call me last Thursday, and he goes, do you have a minute? I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, I got a situation. I just need to talk through with you how to handle it. I am on
Mm.
cloud nine right now, right? Because it's the situational issues that I want to help them through. So the first thing I do is let them spew, because there's sort of frustration, maybe there might even be anger, there's all kinds of things. There's worry, there's stress, there's anxiousness. So let them get it all out, and then start picking apart different things and saying, okay, I heard you say this. That's important. Let's keep that there. And then I heard you say this. How do you want to approach this? Tell me what you would have done. And then we kind of analyze that. We say, okay, if you do that, the results may go here. No guarantee, but it's just something I want you to think about. They may go to the left, they may go to the right. But we work through that. And so, sorry, long-winded to answer your story, but for me, coaching really is when I looked in the mirror and said to myself, what do I want to do for the next 10 years of my life? And I said, I want to leave my mark in this world by helping as many companies as possible grow and be the best they can be. And the only way I could see to do that was through coaching.
It's not a long-winded answer, because I basically asked you about the thing that you're most passionate about. You should probably have a long answer. You had the short answer too. You had the good story, like the concise version. But then I'm touching on some of your greatest passions, and you have obviously you have stories from every day of people you coach. I love that you just like threw that in there from last Thursday, and that's how it ends up working. You end up having these experiences as you go through once you build your business, and you're connecting with people in that way, where it's just like you feel like every week, sometimes almost every day, you're getting a new story, you're encountering a new situation, and you're just like, oh, and this is how my coaching helped X person go from Y location to Z satisfaction, or whatever. It really is that simple and that long-winded. I mean, quite frankly, if I pull you back, I bet you could go for hours unprompted. And that's not to say you're long-winded. That's to say that you're passionate and you know how to speak on it, which I love. It's one of the many reasons why you're here.
Yeah, I get accused of being passionate about it a lot, but it truly is, I mean, sometimes you say, am I in the right seat on the bus? Not only am I in the right seat, I'm on the bus and I'm on the right seat and I'm driving in the right direction. It's all those pieces that kind of fall in together. But it's I wake up every morning just, and that's the best thing, right? When you don't you want to wake up every morning and go, I'm so excited for today. What do I have? I literally look at my calendar and I go, oh, cool. I had a discussion with Kevin today, so I was excited for that, right? It's that kind of stuff that you want to be able to wake up every morning and do. I got a friend that it's where she's working. It's a toxic environment, and she's right now waking up every morning just hating and dreading going into the office. And it's like my heart breaks, because it's like, we need to find her something else to do. I said to her, I go, get me in there, get me into that owner. Let me have a conversation. She goes, I've actually prompted him 3 times to do that, but he's too full of himself to want to do it. I'm like, dang it.
Which again, that's another thing too to think about too when it comes to coaching is there is a certain degree of readiness that's required.
Yes.
And it's just like how coaches help you find the right questions and ask them, and they're there, hold space for the answers. You do have to be ready to ask. You have to at least be that far along in your journey, because if you're not ready to ask for the help that you maybe don't even know how you need it, but if you're not ready to ask, you're not ready to receive. And that's, it's kind of I always in my head sort of jokingly imagine those old signs outside of like amusement parks where it's like, you must be this high to ride.
Right.
It's like
Yeah,
a little cartoon with a hand. It's like, you have to be this tall because, the security harnesses and whatnot won't work properly and the ride becomes dangerous, which is an interesting thing to think about when it comes to coaching. It's like, if you're not at a certain place and you're ready to ask, the coaching, it's not going to help. You're not going to accept it. You're not going to receive it, or worse, you're going to receive it in a way that's going to be detrimental to your business. And so it's that readiness is it's a good lesson to impart to people who are maybe close to ready to being to reaching out for coaching, but just need to take that last step before they're like, oh, that's why I need to do it. And let me talk to Jeff.
I know. Well, it's interesting because, and you're right on point, by the way, because I had a client 7 years ago that I was consulting for, coaching / consulting, which is how I got into coaching, by the way. I felt like a lot of my consulting was more coaching than consulting. And that was fun. But I had a client, and at some point, she just was not responding as hard. And for me, it broke my heart because I'm like, and I probably should have bowed out months before, because I put myself through my own stress trying to get her to be at a certain point. But she just wasn't ready. She didn't want to hear it, right? And I kept saying to my wife, I kept going, I think I can get her there. I think I can get it there. And like, as you identified, she just wasn't quite ready. I came aboard, but she wasn't from a coaching standpoint ready, and it was a disaster. So that doesn't always work, but when they've realized that it's time for them to have a coach and they really could use the help, boy, that makes it so much more fun.
And isn't that one of the highest levels of it's not just coaching, but it's just relationships in general, is understanding when there's a lack of alignment between you and the person that you're relating to, trying to coach whatever happens to be, and trying to address that lack of alignment. And should it come to a point where you realize that this lack of alignment cannot be addressed from within our present context, changing it. Maybe there's another coach that would be a better fit for this person. That happens all the time too. Finding that better fit, or taking a hiatus and giving time, letting time move things forward the way that time always does, whether we want it to or not. And that's one thing I've always really, really initially respected and admired about coaches, and it's only grown in time, is how committed to that kind of virtue coaches are, because they understand the importance of it, and that you can't, and most coaches have learned the hard way, that you really can't force someone into a change they're not ready for, at least ready to begin.
Boy, you are so right. And I tell people that all the time. It's not just people, it's situations too. Right. I was, I was at fault this, early in my career, early 30s, I was full of, spitting vinegars, or whatever that saying is. And I was like, no, this has to happen now, right now. This has to happen today. And I would force it, and it was a disaster. And as I learned over time, if I just give it maybe a day, maybe a week, sometimes it's a month.
Yeah.
But the results were so much better. Like things I didn't even imagine could happened. Right? Just because you gave it time to percolate and to work its way out. And sometimes, you got to give the other person you're working with a little bit of time to comprehend what just happened, and and in their own time kind of figure it out.
Yeah, you want those results to be resilient. You don't want it to just be a reaction to your coaching. You can sometimes get results by forcing the issue, and sometimes that is the right move. You have all the tools in your tool chest, and sometimes people need a nudge, and sometimes they need a push. But when you push when you should be nudging, or when you push when you should be backing off, you might get at least the appearance of results or initial results, but it'll be from a reaction from that client, and they won't be resilient. And you'll come back 6 months later, and you'll be having the same conversations you were before, but from a less powerful place, from a less capable of change place. And that's, again, it's getting good at recognizing those moments. It's one of the slept on, often overlooked aspects of good coaching, is just knowing what kind of pressures to apply and when, and being able to pull back when the time is right.
Well, and the issue that you run into, it's same thing you run into, with your significant other. My wife and I do this all the time, is that, for a while you get into disagreements, right? and then you move on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have a disagreement, and the one from like 3 years ago, well, I remember when you, right? And so from a coaching standpoint, you got to be careful you don't get into that, right? Because the client could be like, well, I've done that 3 times and it's never worked, so why would I do it again? Well, because there's always another way to kind of look at it and go after it. We know that this is where we need to get to. Yeah,
Mhm.
but the same old thing is going to happen. No, maybe not. Let's,
Yeah.
and that's part of the coaching. Like, I appreciate where you're coming from and I understand where you're coming from, but I need you to be a little more open to other possibilities because maybe we didn't look at them all.
Yeah.
We both agree that this is where you want to get to. There's a way to get there. We just need to find it, but bringing up that old stuff cracks me up all the time. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
geez.
me too. And that's the perfect, again, that's the perfect structure for it, because again, you start with those results and you start
Yep.
with an agreement on those results. It seems like the simplest, most straightforward thing, and it seems relatively like minor, but really it is the capstone. It's the foundation of all the work you're going to do together, because you'll always have that agreement, that shared vision
Yep.
of what's this going to look like when we get to where we're aiming for, and what's
That's right.
this journey look like, what's this path look like. So anytime you're lost in the woods, whether it's circumstances, situation, the relationship is sour, you've tried stuff that hasn't worked the way that either of you thought it should, you just revisit the results that you've agreed upon and then
Right.
work backwards from there. And that always grounds the relationship, keeps it from getting
Totally.
shocked in ways that might be
Yeah.
damaging.
Right. Yeah. Well, and like I do this video interview I call it The Journey, which is where I ask business owners to tell me their story. And one of the things I say in the intro is where you start is never going to be where you end, right? Because the road has so many twists and turns, and but knowing that those are going to be there, but ultimately still seeing where you want to be and how you want, is important, right? Keeping your eye on the end game and trying to get there, always important. So it's fun.
Yeah, sometimes I can give you a map, other times I can teach you how to navigate the terrain.
Yep.
Depends on the circumstances.
Yep. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
My
So it's
goodness, this
fun.
is great. I'm unsurprised, but I looked up at the clock just now as a responsible host and realized we've been chatting for over a half an hour, like 35, almost 35 minutes at this point, and I'm just like, geez, this is fantastic. But I have other questions too. Like, for example, talk to me a little bit about Pull the Chute. Like, obviously, you kind of touched on who you serve and how you serve them and whatnot, but and Pull the Chute obviously comes from that foundational story of skydiving, which
Sure.
I'm so taken by that. I love it so much. But talk a little bit about, and I like to two-part this question a little bit because they can be a little bit different. Where can people basically learn more about you, who you are, what you do, how you do it? And where can people best connect with you and actually start a conversation, start a relationship? Do you have like a social media platform you prefer? Do you have any like email lists to opt into, where it's like you have a newsletter? A lot of people will have like the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the quarterly, the whatever. Yeah, so talk to people talk to me about where people can learn more about you, and also where to connect with you best.
Sure. So thanks for that. So pullthechute.net is where you're going to go. And there is I always love this word, plethora of, of materials there. um, so we do blogs. We do our own set of podcasts. We do these video journey interviews, which I love. Literally where I sit down with someone, we go to their office or wherever they work out of, and we sit down in 2 chairs and just have a conversation for 20 minutes about, why they started, when they started, some of the highs, some of the lows, challenges, the goals behind all the things that I do for Pull the Chute. And as I say this, look, my goal is to help as many companies as possible grow and be the best they can be. It doesn't mean I need to be your coach though. So I'm focused on giving you ways to hopefully see insight into your business, think about things. We did recently, the last quarter of last year, we did what we called the Pull the Chute Challenge. And I had 27 companies sign up, which I was thrilled with. And every week we gave them something to work on. So I did a video intro of what we were doing. And then we touched on 5 areas, which I believe are the foundation of things you need to do to get to your business to the next level, which is marketing, which is its whole thing in itself, systems, sales, finance, and people. And again, you very kindly touted how I feel about people in the beginning, but they all lead into each other, because if your marketing is set up right, you're doing things right, then that leads to your systems, which is either going to catch warm leads, it's going to kind of nurture them to get them to a place where you can hand them off to sales. And then if you're doing your sales right, you're collecting money, which means you have your finances. When all that's working right, you're going to need to hire additional people because you're going to start growing, right? So those 5 things all lead into each other that build a strong foundation. But again, whether it's the blogs and, I literally have written a book that is finishing up with my editor right now. It talks about all these things as well, and just the beliefs and such. But the blogs, the podcasts, and I recently signed on a co-host, Jenna, and she's been helping me just do what you and I are doing right now, Kevin, where we pick a topic and we just kind of bounce off each other. And really fun stuff to do with her. And so Jenna Landry, by the way, .com is her website. But we're having a lot of fun doing that. But we're getting, like last week, we just recorded when someone isn't on the right seat on the bus, how do you move them to the right seat? Meaning that maybe someone's not doing the job that to the level that you expected them to do it, but you kind of like them as a person, right? So you look at your company and you say, maybe they're not on the right seat. Maybe we need to move them. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of them, right? But maybe it's just they need to be on the right seat. And I gave the example of my youngest daughter, who was working for a marketing PR firm, and they brought her in. I can't remember the name of the level, but it was kind of like the grunt work kind of stuff, right? So she had to post all the social media and and check up on this and do that. My daughter is got a degree in interior design. She can do great social media because she can design stuff. But what happened is people started seeing that she was designing the social media, and they were all of a sudden going, hey, can you help me do mine? And then the clients were like, oh no, I want her to do mine all the time now because I like what she's doing, right? So suddenly the owner goes, well, I got you on the wrong seat on the bus. She is now the creative director for the entire firm, and nothing goes out of it that she doesn't see, right? And they're going through the roof with that kind of stuff. But again, identifying that kind of stuff, and I think that's just kind of important stuff. But anyway, my overall goal is just to help companies grow. The website does that. We also post on LinkedIn a lot. By the way, if you go to the website, you can register. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, so you can register for that. We currently have if you live in the Gallatin, Tennessee area, we currently have a workshop that's going to happen on February 24th. So I'm excited about that. That's an in-person one. But I have a partner program as well. And this is something, again, as I thought through the whole process, meaning I don't know that I'm going to have all the answers. I've learned that over the years that I don't have to have all the answers. What I need to do is surround myself with people that can help me find the answers, right? And so as I get into businesses, and this is more for the medium to larger businesses, they may need HR help. So I have Norma, who helps me with HR. Jana actually does voice and communication coaching, which is huge. We have this whole thing of we're in this very unique time where we literally are communicating across 4 generations: baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zs, who because of technology all communicate differently. And so how do you communicate across 4 generations? So it's the first time in the history of man that something like that has ever happened. And so it's a difficult thing. And we talk about that. I have a recruiting firm. So if you're looking to hire, someone and usually it's kind of a VP and above they like to look at, but they can help you find that person that's really good. I have a girl that knows how to do SEO, which is amazing. She helps me and she's awesome. I have a marketing strategist. So if you're looking to figure out how to strategize about your marketing, and then I also have a marketing person that does all of the paraphernalia, the cups and the shirts and does all the printing, all that stuff. And so we have that. Yeah. So we have this well-rounded group of partners that, if someone says, hey, I think we need to move to HR, I'm going to call up Norma and go, hey, Norma, boom, here you go. Because I don't know how to do that, and I don't want to know how to do that, to be honest.
Exactly.
But that's kind of the cool part. So again, when I say all that is, pullthechute.net is a way to connect with us. Jeff at pullthechute.net, if you want to connect to me personally, please do. Please reach out. I love that. And then, of course, look for us on LinkedIn and Facebook. We do those. We're getting ready to do Instagram, which is a completely different animal. And so we kind of have to put a plan together for that one. And I've had more people start to ask me, are you doing Instagram? And at first I said, no. But I think we're starting to get our video library built up enough where I can take snippets of things and start to put them out there. We have a YouTube channel, by the way, of all kinds of interviews that we've done, some seminars that I've done, some webinars that I've done, all that stuff. Again, the goal is I don't have to be your coach, but I'm offering you tons of materials that should help your company grow and be the best that it can be.
Yeah, it's just you have a robust team and a robust approach that, quite frankly, it completely represents and reflects who you've shown yourself to be in our conversation. Where it's just like, I'm committed to growth and to growing and to putting people in the right spots and making sure that we have, if there's a question, that we find the answer together. And it's just like the way that you've structured your business and your coaching exemplifies all the values that you coach, which, I mean, you say it like that, it's a kind of a duh, of course it does. But I think it's worthy of note and worthy of praise. I really respect and admire what you put together. And I just have a blast talking with you, just purely selfishly. Like, you're really, really fun to talk to and bounce ideas off of and joke back and forth and share stories. So
yeah,
I'm already very much looking forward to doing this again, and maybe again and again.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, just let me know. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, the fun part for me is, having 30 plus years of just living it comes with so many stories and things you can just do and share, and it's fun. I was interviewed one time, and every question that I had no clue what the questions were, and every question they asked me, I had a story to go along with it, but it was just off the cuff because so much stuff has happened, right? And it's fun, and I'm thrilled that I get to live my passion each and every day and share my experiences with those people that are looking to just kind of thrive and grow and be the best they can be. And that's all we want to do. Especially, I believe 2023 is the year of the entrepreneur. People are tired of working for corporate America. Now they're being forced to go back to work. Maybe they're into the office. I mean, maybe they don't want to go back into the office because, that was the one thing COVID really taught us was, hey, we can do our job from home. I don't have to commute for 30 or 40 minutes or an hour just to go to work, every day, which, kills me. And I can get it done. So, I believe the timing for Pull the Chute is right, because we do need people. And I need people to take a breath, just take that hour, even if it's a half hour. I don't care. When we did the Pull the Chute challenge, we said to them, take a half hour and just schedule it, open up the email, and just kind of look at the things that we've given you to look at and think about and plan out. And the goal there was just to get them to take a break. Don't wake up every morning and feel like you're in the grind. You got into business for yourself, so you didn't have to be in the grind, and now you're back in the grind, right? And so how do you do that and enjoy life? And that's the fun part about what I get to do.
Yeah, and making sure that people understand that it's not just possible, but it's, if you're ready, it's time. Like, we have the tools, we have the ability, we have the understanding. It's just very exciting. I know I'm often accused of being not irrational, a very aggressive optimist. I'm very positive about the outlook, and still a realist, of course, with the challenges we have before us, but just the tools we have at our disposal to really unlock the kind of life we want to live, the way we want to live it, to help the people we want to help and serve the people we want to serve. It's there for us. There's going to be some work, but really that work in and of itself, no matter how much you sweat, is going to be fun. You're going to wake up the next day. Maybe it was like you were baling hay for 12 hours a day before and your body aches, but it's that good ache of when you're doing the right work. And there's nothing like it. And so thank you for being a part of it. I appreciate that you're a part of the wave, the rising tide, as it were. And Pull the Chute is the hub. We'll send everybody there. Like, if you any questions you might have, any curiosities you might want to satisfy, any conversations you want to start, that's the place to start. Pullthechute.net, be in the show notes along with all the other stuff too.
Great. Awesome.
One more time, just because of gratitude. Thank you, Jeff. This has been fantastic. I'm looking up at the clock and I'm like, I've broken all of my timing rules for this podcast, and I don't care. This is too good.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to more.
And here on the podcast, we'll talk to you, the audience. We'll talk to Jeff together again very, very soon.